What is reality? Reality is what we believe to be true about the nature of our surroundings. But how do we come to decide that true nature? Do we conceive it completely on our own? Or do other devices gently sway our thoughts onto a pre-decided path? This is the hard question we must all ask ourselves as free humans on this planet. Whose skull swallows reality?
Reality. Ladies and gentlemen, Wednesday night, time for another wonderful, splendid, spectacular edition of Reality Borf.
Don't forget magical. It's kind of magical.
Kind of magical. You know, the whole time we're doing the show, we're actually casting a spell.
Yeah, this entire show, this entire thing is just one massive ritual. It's one gigantic operation, and it's taken us over 2 years. And, heck, we just started. It's not even close to done. So.
Done. You know, sometimes I'm like, oh, God, I gotta do a reality barf. But then whenever I start doing it, I feel better, and I'm much better that I'm doing it. So, yeah. You guys, we're not going anywhere for a while.
We feel better that we're here.
You stuck with us. Broadcasting live from gloomy Hampton, Virginia.
Oh, it's the best place on
Super
earth.
secret, undisclosed location. Tonight's show is brought to you by
Tavistock?
Dude, they're always watching.
Oh, yeah. What's it? BrainNet? BrainNet's a big sponsor tonight.
Right. Anyway, we got a slam-packed jammer. I think tonight we're going to start off with a user-submitted article that we got, and this one escaped me. Came out today at 10:30. Thanks, Jay, for this one. Let's check it out. Scientists connect 3 people's minds so they can communicate using brainwaves alone. Holy shit. You know, this is the kind of thing we've been talking about the whole fucking time.
Synthetic telepathy. It could happen to you.
Now they're talking about three-way synthetic telepathy.
Oh, that's
pretty fucking wild, man. Let's see, is that it? Hey, look, we're back.
Yeah. So we're talking like direct mind-to-mind transfer of thoughts, right?
So now it's becoming mainstream, right? Sending your thoughts directly into someone else's brain may seem like the stuff of science fiction, but this capability could be closer to reality than we think. Ha! No shit, really? A team from the University of Washington and Carnegie Mellon University has developed a system called BrainNet, which allows 3 people, not 1, not 2, but 3 people to communicate with one another using only their thoughts. You were about to add something?
I think the CIA is listening to my thoughts. No, we're not. Come in.
Previous research has demonstrated that 2 people can communicate via brainwaves to play a video game. Oh, that's going to be fucking rad when that technology hits consumer level.
Disgustingly rad.
Using what's known as a brain-brain interface technology that can both extract and deliver information to and from brains. So it's like your router for brains.
The brain
right?
router.
Brain router. In the latest study, the team took this idea and added an extra person. Their system is described in a... I think you forgot something there, guys, over there at the Newsweek. In 2013, we demonstrated the first brain-to-brain interface for direct communication and collaboration between 2 human brains. Rajesh Rao, an author of the study from the University of Washington, told Newsweek, the question that remained unanswered was whether one could create a social network. Oh my god. Oh god. Can you imagine when everybody's brain is fucking plugged into Facebook? It's bad enough as it is with... Oh, it's cold. You know, stupid shit like that. Can you imagine when, someone's brain is just constantly putting out every single one of their fucking thoughts on the Facebook?
You're just sitting there watching your cat live streaming it from your brain.
I got so many views on my finger.
It'll be just like that episode of South Park when they had that thing called Shitter. And it was just Cartman and Alec Baldwin were the only 2 people on it.
The question that remained unanswered was whether one could create a social network of more than 2 brains collaborating to solve tasks that none of the individual brains could. BrainNet is the first proof of concept demonstration of this idea. So not only is it they're like pooling resources, they're not just connecting with each other, but they're sharing processing capability, so to speak. So this is pretty rad, and I wonder if any of this... Now, we hear the stories from, Penny about being hooked into the computer.
Yeah.
And then last week, Kevin, or was it last week? I don't know. Some time ago.
One of these weeks.
Kevin was on, and he was telling us more about the AI that he says is being used in the Solar Warden program that, will communicate through a person.
Yeah, the black goo AI that'll just take you over. And all of a sudden you're its thrall, and it says whatever it has to say to you through this person, like friggin' GLaDOS.
So, if you believe in any of that, then this shit here certainly has been around for a very long time. And, I am firmly of the belief, and this, secret space program, conspiracy theory, any of that shit aside, DARPA has us so advanced, we're 20 to 30 years advanced or more on almost everything. So whenever we're hearing about it, just on that alone, it's probably already been developed. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and now they're just trying to ease it into the mainstream.
Right, and they're trying to make it look like it was just discovered.
Right. Well, and that's my theory about all this Space Force stuff too, is that a lot of this stuff has been going on for a long time, and they're just trying to make it seem mainstream because they know that their cover's getting blown. Realistically, I believe that as to why they shut down the Sunspot Observatory. And, I'm not saying I necessarily think it was aliens, but I definitely think that somebody noticed some kind of clandestine operations going on in space, and they were like, nope, shut that shit down.
Man, look, here is my reasoning behind why I don't think that it was a space fleet. Okay?
Why you don't think it was a space fleet?
Yeah, why I don't think it was a space fleet that shut the observatory down.
All right,
because I did a little digging, Granted, I didn't go super crazy. I used Wikipedia for, you know, some of my sources and shit, so, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But there was something like over 20 sunspot observatories that were open, right?
Right.
According to, and this story originated from, what was it, Zero Hedge, right? Mm-hmm. So according to Zero Hedge, there was like 5 or 6 of them that were shut down. But when I looked, there was plenty that were still in the area that were still running. So if there was a space fleet, all of those other observatories would have caught it. So, you know, now granted, obviously there's always the possibility of a cover-up or some shit like that, but at this point I don't think so. And I didn't go as far in to look to see if I can find any kind of images or videos from the time period, right? Because...
Well, and then
I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to waste.
Too. I was talking to some of my friends about this earlier. That, you know, a lot of stuff. You know, even people tend to do this in the way they operate. They'll compartmentalize, and what I mean by that is like that. You know, they make sure that certain elements of their lives are arranged a certain way to where they don't interact with each other if they don't have to. Like, a lot of people don't like their personal life and their work life to clash. You know what I mean? A lot of people keep those two completely separate, and so, you know, if there is, you know, this new world order, this Fourth Reich, this secret space command that's filtered its tentacles all the way down through humanity, everything on every level is completely compartmentalized so that one tentacle doesn't know what another tentacle is doing.
I'll tell you who's running it, though.
No doubt. I think if you get to the top of the power scale, you'll see that it's really...
That was for you, Phantom Spy.
It's the cats.
They're running all of it. Phantom Spy right there.
Now there it is, the gay bomb.
No. All right, so enough silly. Let's get back to semi-serious here. In the experiments, 2 participants, the senders, were fitted with electrodes on the scalp to detect and record their own brain waves, patterns of electrical activity in the brain, using a method known as electroencephalography, right? That's EEG.
Yeah, electroencephalography.
All right, so the 3rd participant, the receiver, was fitted with electrodes that enabled the participant to receive and read brainwaves from 2 senders via a technique called transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS. TMS, bro. The trio was asked to collaborate using brain-to-brain interactions to solve a task that each of them individually would not be able to complete.
Probably also stands for total mind subdual.
It's total mind submission. The task involved a simplified Tetris-style game.
It gets simpler than Tetris?
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, this has definitely got Vitas written all over it, dude. In which the players had to decide whether or not to rotate a shape by 180 degrees in order to correctly fill a gap in a line at the bottom of the computer screen. Oh, my ad blocker blocked this picture. Sorry, guys. All the participants watched the game, although the receiver was in charge of executing the action. The catch was the receiver was not able to see the bottom half of the screen, so had to rely on information sent by 2 senders using their minds in order to play. So it's kind of like those VR games where, like, one person's got the helmet on and then they have people outside, like, trying to tell them, like, direct them what to do and stuff while they're watching the TV screen. So they were doing this telepathically.
Telepathic Tetris.
This is fucking dope.
Yo, that's like at least a song name right there. Telepathic Tetris.
The updated game screen is then displayed to the senders for a second, final round of decision making. Allow the users to potentially correct the mistake made in the first round. Okay. Well, you know, that's pretty much the gist of it. I don't think we need to finish that. If you want to read the rest of that or see the pictures or whatever, that's up at newsweek.com. And the title is right there on the screen. Scientists connect 3 people's minds so they can communicate using brainwaves alone. Once again, thanks, Jay.
Yep.
Thanks. Appreciate it, man. That was a nice find right there. Okay, so what else we got up
So what's the range on that sucker?
What, the three-way telepathy?
Yeah, like how far away could one of the participants be? What's that limited by?
Well, I mean, I would assume it would be limited by your natural psychic ability, or if they're using some kind of antenna to amplify the signal, then you're limited to the antenna range.
Well, do you think it would reach all the way out to maybe 40 to 80 astronomical units?
I mean, if you were a badass, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe if you had proper quantum entanglement? Well, and speaking of which, don't you have something for us about quantum entanglement?
Yeah, that's DARPA. No, it's not about quantum entanglement. It's something different.
Oh, quantized inertia, my bad.
Yeah, so, but before we get there, what were we just talking about when we were hitting this thing here.
Psychic Tetris fucker?
No, it diverted to something else that we had another story about, but...
Vetus?
Phoebus?
Vetus.
Vitus. No,
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's check this out. This is kind of old, a couple weeks old. I just saw it. Sorry, guys. I'm not doing my job very well. But it is also from the History Channel.
So, it is kind of history. It's already kind of old news if it's coming from the History Channel.
Yeah, but you know,
it could be old news that you don't know about.
I'm just saying the History Channel, to me, is a very credible source.
History.
But something like this, they're not too bad on. You know, they got the Ancient Alien series and shit. But this was pretty interesting. And I think this may have been the first time I heard of it. It seemed kind of familiar, but it couldn't really remember it reading exactly about it. When dozens of Korean War GIs claimed a UFO made them sick. Theories range from high-tech Soviet death rays to ETs studying human combat to combat stress-induced hallucinations.
High-tech Soviet death rays is definitely at least an album name. Like right there.
Yeah. High-tech Soviet death rays could be a band.
Yeah.
Look at that high-tech Soviet death ray, man. Shit is high-tech. In May 1951, 1 year into the Korean War, PFC Francis P. Wall and his regiment found themselves stationed near Choron, about 60 miles north of Seoul. As they were preparing to bombard a nearby village with artillery, all of a sudden, the soldiers saw a strange sight up the hills, like a jack-o'-lantern come wafting down across the mountain. What happened after the pulsing attacking light, the lingering debilitating symptoms, would mystify many for decades to come.
So it was like the problems of the Vietnam War 20 years early.
As the GIs watched, the craft made its way down into the village where the artillery airbursts were starting to explode. We further noticed that this object would get right into the center of an airburst and yet remain unharmed. Wall later told John P. Timmerman for the Center of UFO Studies in 1987 interview, suddenly the object turned. And whereas at first it had a glowed orange, now it was a pulsating blue-green brilliant light. He asked his company commander for permission to fire at the object with armor-piercing bullets from an M1 rifle. This is pretty good right now. As the bullets hit the body of the craft, he recalled, they made a metallic ding. The object started behaving still more erratically, shunting from side to side as its lights flashed on and off. So I wonder, if they hit something important there.
Crazy.
Wall's recollections of what happened next are stranger still. We were attacked, swept by some form of ray that was emitted in pulses, in waves that you could visually see only when it was aiming directly at you. That is to say, a searchlight sweeps around the segments of light. You would see it coming at you. He remembered a burning, tingling sensation sweeping over his body as if he was being penetrated. The men rushed into underground bunkers and peeped through windows, watching as the craft hovered above them and then shot off at a 45-degree angle. It's that quick. It was there and it was gone. 3 days after the incident, the entire company of men was evacuated by ambulance, with special roads cut to haul those too weak to walk. When they finally received medical treatment, they were found to have dysentery and extremely high white blood cell count. To me, says Richard F. Haynes, a UFO researcher and former NASA scientist, they had symptoms that sounded like the effects of radiation.
I mean, it probably was if they had got attacked by some sort of directed energy weapon.
The other thing, too, is a former NASA scientist means, absolutely zero to me. I mean, you're a former NASA scientist.
No, I'm not. I'm a former NASA graphic designer. And that wasn't even directly for NASA. That was for a contractor.
Now, the sensation of this beam is being described as, death ray, like the people that say they're being shot with directed energy weapons today, whether you believe them or not, this is how they're describing it.
Yeah.
It's almost to a T.
Your mom's a former NASA scientist.
Your mom. Oh, you missed the first 18 minutes? Well, that was the best 18 minutes
it was a pretty
of
good
your
18
life.
minutes.
As a matter of fact, when it's over, I'm just going to cut it out, and you'll never see that first 18 minutes. I mean, 10 of it was like us trying to get the show started, but it's all good.
Yeah, the other 8 minutes made up for it.
That's right. Was it an experimental new Soviet weapon? In the wake of the Korean War, which ended in July 1953, dozens of men have reported seeing similar unidentified objects over the course of the 37-month conflict. The craft often resembled flying saucers.
I'm going to say no. I don't think it was a Soviet weapon because everyone knows that communists don't produce anything worth a fuck. So, there's that.
According to unofficial reports, as many as 42 were corroborated by additional witness reports, an average of one or more than a month in just over 3 years. Well, that's a fucking lot, I think.
Yeah. Now, I would believe that this is where Admiral Byrd's warning about flying craft approaching from the poles steps into play.
Dude, you know, while we're on the topic, that whole thing with Admiral Byrd and that quote and all that is taken out of context. Like, most times you see it in print.
Yeah,
like, I went back and tracked down the actual fucking news article that was in Spanish and shit, and I translated it with translators. I mean, I didn't use an actual person, but, you know, AI. And to me, it was clear he was talking about major powers setting up bases at the poles.
Yeah.
And being able to attack with air, not, you know what I mean? So, just my 2 cents on that. But yeah, so...
Well, it makes you wonder how effective Operation Aegis was and how much time they had to get stuff off-world before that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, man. But, you know, I'm not saying that I don't think that Operation High Jump didn't happen and it wasn't what, you know, we all think it is. But I will say that that shit is taken out of context in most cases.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's lots of theories. They think it's a Soviet experimental weapon, you know, any type of Chinese shit. To me, that was definitely a directed energy weapon. You know,
yeah,
who shot it, I don't fucking know. Could have been anybody.
Personally, I think it was Germans trying to build money for money to rebuild the Reich. You know, on the down low. So
I could tell you what it wasn't.
But they were happy to take some shots at the Americans. So there you go.
I could tell you what it wasn't.
Huh?
It wasn't benevolent ETs.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't benevolent ETs.
No, there's no way. All right, so shall we go into the depressing?
The Rise of the Machines or space
stuff? Dude, they are pushing this AI so hard right now. It's killing me.
Just wait until it's AI pushing you.
It's the AI push you into robot.
Oh no, Fedor is driving.
All right, let's start off light then.
Yeah, what's this? The Robo Farm?
Robo Farmers.
Now, does this mean
here's something
mean
good.
That the farmers themselves are robotic, or that they're growing robots?
Give it some time. Now this is
stop giving them ideas.
This is good, right? In my opinion. Now, you know, I'm not against technology, or robots, or even AI. It's just the applications and how far they take it is an issue for me. Okay, so basically they've got this set up now to farming robots. You want to take it away with that? Take it away there.
Oh yeah, so yeah, here we go. Brandon Alexander would like to introduce you to the Angus, the farmer of the future. He's heavy set, weighs in at nearly 1,000 pounds, and he's a little slow, but he's strong enough to hoist 800-pound pallets of maturing vegetables and can move them from place to place on his own. Sure, Angus is a robot, but don't hold that against him, you racists. Even if he looks more like a large tanning bed rather than C-3PO. To Alexander, Angus and other robots are a key to a new wave of local agriculture that aims to raise lettuce, basil, and other produce in metropolitan areas while conserving water and sidestepping the high costs of human labor. It's a big challenge, and some earlier efforts have flopped. Even Google's moonshot laboratory, known as X,
the other way. It's backwards.
Couldn't figure out how to make the economics work. After raising $6 million and tinkering with an autonomous robots for 2 years, Alexander's startup Iron Ox says it's ready to start delivering crops of its robotically grown vegetables to people's salad bowls. And they're going to be the best salads you ever tasted, says the 33-year-old Alexander, a one-time Oklahoma farm boy turned Google engineer turned startup CEO. Iron Ox planted its first robot farm in an 8,000-square-foot warehouse in San Carlos, California. It's about 25 miles south of San Francisco. Although no deals have been struck yet, Alexander says that Iron Ox has been talking to San Francisco Bay Area restaurants that are interested in buying its leafy vegetables and begins to start selling to supermarkets next year.
So I wonder if these robots that are farming these plants or whatever, these fruits and veggies, whatever they're doing, if they can be labeled organic.
That's so weird, thinking that something grown by a robot is labeled organic, but here we are.
Continue.
So, this San Carlos warehouse is only a proving ground for Iron Ox's long-term goals. It plans to set up the robot farms and greenhouses that will rely mostly on natural sunlight instead of high-powered indoor lighting that sucks up expensive electricity. Initially, though, the company will sell its produce at a loss in order to remain competitive. So, they haven't really figured out, even without the labor costs, it's not really making money yet.
Right.
So, scrolly.
Oh, my bad.
There are bigger stakes as well. The world's population is expected to swell up to about 10 billion by 2050, about 7.5 billion now, making it important to find ways to feed more people without further environmental impact. According to a report from the World Resources Institute, Iron Ox, Alexander reasons, can be part of the solution if its systems can make the leap from its small laboratory-like settings to much larger greenhouses. The startup relies on a hydroponic system that conserves water and automation in place of humans, who increasingly seem less interested in U.S. farming jobs that pay an average of $13.32 an hour, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Nearly half of U.S. farm workers planting and picking crops aren't in the U.S. legally, based on a survey by the Department of Labor. So, wait a sec.
$13.32 an hour, that's pretty rough, man. That's some hard fucking work for $13.32 an hour, man.
Yeah, I mean, 7-Eleven starts at 8, so...
You cannot compare working at a 7-Eleven to farming.
You're right, you can't, but... That's what I'm saying, they're doing better than some people, huh? Mm. So, the heavy lifting on Iron Ox's indoor farm is done by Angus, which rolls around the indoor farm on omnidirectional wheels. Its job is to shuttle maturing produce to another as yet unnamed robot who's just not as cool, which transfers plants from smaller growing pods to larger ones, using a mechanical arm whose joints are lubricated with food-safe grease. So it's probably just fry grease. They're just oiling it. Yeah.
It's like a McDonald's waste.
Yeah.
All right, well, I mean...
They don't want to call it oil. They're afraid, the military might invade. But it's a tedious process, but you can read more about it at...
yahoo.com.
Yahoo.com. We'll post the link on our page later.
I mean, I picked that article not because it was the most interesting, but because I was coming with so much doom and gloom with robots, and I just needed something to smile. China plans to be a world leader. Do you have a
smiling permit?
Oh, fuck. No.
Didn't think so.
China plans to be a world leader in artificial intelligence by 2030. Artificial intelligence has come to occupy an important role in Beijing's Made in China 2025 blueprint. China wants to become a global leader in the field by 2030 and now has an edge in terms of academic papers, patents, both cross-border and global AI funding. But I will see, as we find out a little bit later, probably not for long. In 2017, China published its next-generation artificial intelligence development plan, which laid out plans to ultimately become the world leader in artificial intelligence, with the domestic AI industry worth almost US $150 billion. You realize it was that much?
Mm-hmm. I figured it was more.
I didn't think it was that much, man.
Oh yeah, I figured it was that more, if not,
the first step of that plan.
Double that.
The first step of that plan is to catch up with the U.S. on AI technologies and applications by 2020. China now dominates AI funding. Last year, 48% of total equity funding of AI startups globally came from China, compared to 38% funded by the U.S. and 13% by the rest of the world. This is a significant jump from the 11.3% of global funding China made in 2016. In the early 2000s, China began to build a high-speed rail network that the government said would spur technological development and improve the country's transportation system. The train network is now one of the most advanced in the world. There are good reasons to believe the country can make its vision of AI supremacy real.
And crush humanity under its boot.
3-step plan. First, must be able to keep pace with leading AI technology and its application in general by 2020. Part 2 is to make major breakthroughs by 2025, which is intended to lead the third part of the plan, the establishment of China as the world leader in AI field by 2030. So by 2032, the robots will establish dominance.
And life for the average meatbags will become a hell beyond all bounds.
We ain't got much longer, guys. Alright, so, then it goes into some examples of AI and, different applications and stuff. You want to read the rest of this. Actually comes from the South China Morning Post. South China Morning Post. But, you know, coupled with that, we have this. There was a subcommittee in the House, and they just put out a paper.
The House of Representing.
They just put out a paper, policy recommendation, that we dump a shit ton of money in AI. A shit ton of money in AI. So
all your dollars all belong to us.
Knowing what China's doing, are they really interested in it, or they want to try and just compete with China, or what the fuck's going on? I mean, now we're talking about AI that's being developed, for the general population. We're not talking about some type of AI that's already been conceived of. Now, maybe based on that, who knows? Last week, the top U.S. House Representatives Subcommittee on IT weighed in with AI with a new report. Rise of the Machines! Artificial Intelligence and its growing impact on U.S. policy. And it's a boring-ass read. If you do want to read it, I think
it's only 15 pages.
It might be a link to it. Yes, there is a link to it in this article, hbcwire.com, or you can get it in our Facebook group, Reality Brief, Exopolitics, and Conspiracy. The report is the result of the hearings and research that began last February in the Subcommittee on Information Technology, Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Chairman Will Hurd and Ranking Member Robin Kelly are listed authors. So it's a bipartisan call. They don't always get together unless it's clearly going to fuck you somehow. So,
yeah. They might bicker over the little stuff, but when it comes bipartisanship, when it comes to the important shit like war, devaluing currency, internment camps, using the IRS to go after people, like anything fascist, they're there, in droves.
Okay, so they emphasize the report's conclusions relate to narrow AI, such as playing strategic games, language translation, and self-driving vehicles, and not to general AI, which can accomplish more than one task and can move between these tasks based on reasoning. Still, Rise of the Machines has an urgent tone. Chief among the subcommittee's recommendation is for the federal government to increase federal spending on research and development to maintain American leadership with respect to AI. Right? So, trying to fight back against China. In response to concerns about... so we go the space race, Cold War...
Race to now, stage 4 automation.
Arms race has progressed to who could build the smarter, deadlier machine robot that thinks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't agree with my assessment, let's. I
may not know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones.
Where is it, man? It's in here somewhere, but one of these things I came across, the Pentagon already currently spends like a shit ton of billions of dollars on AI. And DARPA, again, which we'll get into a little bit later, got a few different DARPA news. But they spend a ton of money on it too. So the money's being spent, the technology is progressing, and it's leading to shit like this. Like, this ain't right, man. Your next job interview, shut up. Your next job interview could be with a robot.
Great.
Right? Who doesn't want that? Right? What the fuck, man?
Well, the question is, would you want to work for a company that interviews you with a robot?
No. There's a lot of talk lately about robots kicking your jibs. Estimates predict the number of jobs lost to automation within the next decade could be 1 million in the U.S. alone. It's funny because I've seen the self-service kiosks getting set up in some fast food restaurants. Did you notice that?
Yeah, like Wendy's.
Yeah, I think it was Wendy's that I saw it in. It's coming. So, but what about new job opportunities they could create? Advocates say that numbers of positions created by technological developments will far outweigh those taken away. The recruitment industry is front and center to that disruption from automation. Increasingly, employers are using robotics to speed up the recruitment process and free up hiring managers' time for more complex tasks. Okay, hold on. What? All right, you're hiring somebody to be a hiring manager.
And they automate
Here, man. While removing human biases that can hold back some applicants. In fact, yeah, that's going to be clearly the reasoning behind all this. And this is why we're going to see robotic police in the street, too. Because humans can't be, can't get away from their biases. There's always going to be racist cops. There's always going to be some form of discrimination. So the only way to get rid of it is to let the robot overlords have fucking run with it.
You have 10 seconds to comply.
In fact, nearly all Fortune 500 companies are using some kind of automation to enhance their hiring process. Now, automation, right, applications, that kind of shit, that's one thing, but sitting down and having an interview with an AI or something, I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
it's a little creepy.
Recruiting platform TripleByte is one company aiming to do that on behalf of San Francisco Bay tech giants like Apple and Coinbase. It uses background-blind artificial intelligence programs to test and perform initial online interviews with software engineers who are then matched up with positions most relevant to their skills. I like this guy's name, man. Harj Tagar, TripleByte CEO and co-founder, claims that open up opportunities to a more diverse pool of candidates who may not fit the typical Silicon Valley credentials sought by human recruiters. The effectiveness of human recruiters is going down because recruiters are all chasing after people after the same pool of people. That's because there's only this pretty much goes for any type of trade like that, skilled trade. There's only a limited pool of people that are even able to do that fucking job.
Right.
All right, so there's a significant percentage of people who can make it as a software engineer, but there aren't hiring processes in place to attract them, said Tagger, who worked for 5 years at USC Accelerator Y Combinator before founding TripleByte. TripleByte's placement rate seems to reflect that too. The number of candidates who successfully secure jobs offered through TripleByte is 40% versus the industry average of 20%. Jeremy Phelps is one such candidate. He's a 39-year-old self-taught software engineer, enjoys long walks in the desert, solar panels, organic kimchi. So anyway, this guy, he winds up working a string of low-paid jobs, including at a pizza delivery business and fast food chain McDonald's, when he found himself unable to meet the application requirements for any technical jobs. Now, I can see that because you got to have that college paper. You know what I mean? You could be completely capable of scratch writing a program. You know what I mean? Like, just the awesomest shit. But you ain't got the papers and it don't matter. And on the other hand, you could barely build a web page or some shit. You know what I mean? But you got the papers, and then you got the money. It's crazy. So, why do they need AI for that, though? Why can't they just be like, instead of having AI, maybe like a demonstration of your abilities for people who are outside of, MIT graduates or whatever. I don't know, fucking AI.
Yeah, I guess you could. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something that machines understand about who they want to work on them that we don't.
If you thought the news was fake now, the future of news is artificial intelligence.
It's all we're going to talk about forever.
Oh my god.
No, we got some space stuff too.
Go ahead. No, we got plenty of stuff, guys, and we got plenty of time.
Oh yeah, we'll be here all night.
We got plenty of time. We got over an hour to be like blah 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 reality barf.
But if God forbid, somebody out there wants to get in on the conversation, what's that number again? 757-528-8130.
That's over there.
That's it. You should pick that number up and
ew.
Serves you right. But yeah, you should pick up your phone or your space transmitter or whatever.
Your mobile device.
Or have your AI do it for you, but dial those numbers.
Oh, there's nobody even watching anymore.
Yeah,
I don't think they're calling it
it says
tonight,
there's
Dad.
3 watching.
I don't think they're calling it tonight, Dad.
Yeah, sorry, we're not.
All right, go ahead.
What? So, yeah, for almost 80 years, people have tuned into their television sets to get their daily dose of news. All around the world, people watched the Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the 2 Gulf Wars that they paid for unfolding in front of them in their TV screens, you know, the missile hitting the Pentagon, all sorts of fun stuff. Don scrolling down, you know.
Sorry, man. I'm busy over here.
So for most of us, television news has been a constant in our lifetime. Something we turn to when big news breaks. But for the first time since the introduction of TV news in 1940, the dominance of the nightly TV news bulletin is being challenged by a serious competitor, online news. Which, I mean, that makes sense now because, you know, everyone's got a phone in their pocket and you know, I just recently got this new LG phone where you scroll over to one side of, like, your desktop, and it's just, like, a bunch of Google stuff. It's, like, Google News built into the desktop of your phone.
Yeah, that's on my tablet.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I need to go down yet?
Oh, no, 2017, yeah. Not that far. A 2017 report by the Pew Research Center found the gap between the share of Americans who get their news from TV and those who get their news from online is narrowing rapidly. While half the population still gets their news from TV, 43% of Americans now say that they regularly engage with the online news sources. To put this in perspective, in 2017, the gap was 19 points, 57% watching television to online 38%. The trend towards digital news takes on greater significance when you consider the generational gap, with millennials twice as likely as their parents to get their news online. So the whole business model of the news is changing, which is why it's so important that you tune into shows like Reality Brief. You know, on
Borf.
that note, because everything's so filtered and sanitized and pussy whipped and everything else. Like
It's Dan. I'm not gonna tell you again. It's Reality Borf.
Oh, okay.
Borf.
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 So, there's been a lot of speculation about the end of newspapers as mastheads as they're going digital, but the reality is that online content is also killing off commercial TV news. The business model of commercial TV news centers on the fact that editorial content is funded by advertising shown during the commercial breaks. The news content is technically free for the consumer. Instead, the cost of the viewer is dull and often annoying advertising. You know, so thankfully we don't really do a lot of that here, but, you know.
Oh, it's coming.
Maybe we should.
It's coming.
So, subscription media services like Spotify and Netflix are conditioning a whole generation to pay a small fee for quality content.
Let me stop you right there. Where's the fucking AI shit?
Oh, yeah, using artificial intelligence to deliver hyper-personalized news. Now,
oh, shit.
Most of y'all know this. Like, anybody who has an Android phone, or, you know, the Apple analog, knows that, you know, they are basically monitoring everything you look up to tailor your news feed to your specific taste.
Yeah, and I think they were just talking about Facebook doing this not too long ago, too.
Yeah. So, the writer of this article says that... Oh, excuse me. I believe that the new era of news will be hyper-personalized content curated by a trained algorithm that learns your preferences over time. If you're a sports fan, I predict that AI will soon be able to instantly collate all the latest video content from the weekend's matches, automatically compile the specific highlights that it knows that you want to see, and deliver a completely customized video to your designated device. For the news industry, production costs are minuscule, the number of hyper-personalized video streams infinitely scalable, and the consumer experience hyper-targeted. So who wouldn't be willing to pay for this type of hyper-personalized subscription service? And if this is the future of digital news video, then the funding model will most certainly involve new consumption-based micro-payments to news broadcasters. It's certainly something we're invested in helping realize with our video virtualization technology. AI and automation are already being used in newsrooms across the world to deliver content faster, at scale, with less cost. Many journalists use AI-generated smart templates to produce commodity news, such as reports on finance markets, company earnings. See Bloomberg's Project Cyborg initiative is reported on poynter.org. That's poynter.org. So, you know what, though? They're slacking, because every time I go into Google and type in exopolitics, nothing.
You know, and then they're saying AI can be even applied to detect and potentially create fake video news. It's because nobody really uses that exopolitics term, because that guy, what's his name, Alfred?
Yeah.
I think he owns it or something. So I'm surprised we haven't got sued
He
yet.
thinks he owns it.
Or somebody owns it, I'm sure, man. Everybody owns everything. Trademark,
Property of the blue chicken cult.
You're not even allowed to have a conversation about anything because I made it up. It's mine. It's mine.
But I don't need to be famous.
So AI can even be applied to detect and potentially create fake video news. And I think that was the whole point of all that. Blah, 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 blah. At least when I put it in there.
Yeah, as John Micklethwaite, editor-in-chief of the Bloomberg News, penned in his recent piece.
Micklethwaite?
Yeah, Micklethwaite.
Oh,
Micklethwaite. The future of news. News is an industry in transition, not in decline. It is re-emerging as something more digital, more personalized, more automated, and definitely more paid for.
All right, so look, first of all, let's just be blunt, okay? We're not talking about news, okay? Because news shouldn't really be an industry. It's just events that happen that people are talking about, right? They're talking about an entertainment type thing. This is an entertainment show.
Well, at least at least we try.
All right, we're not out there like, you know, putting journalistic pieces and shit together. This is like a pun, like. It's like a pundit show. It's like a political pundit show. Like, you know, I hate to say any of the names that we so detest, but, you know, typically that, but...
Well, you know, it's like if...
It's an exo-political pundit.
It's like if that one show that goes from one coast to the other were a morning show.
True, but I was thinking more of, like, being pundits, like, you know, Sean Hannity or, you know, the talk radio guys. You know, those are pundits. This is opinion. We're not really, you know, this isn't journalism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I think they're talking about. I mean, now granted, you know, there's an industry in anything that money's involved in, but it really shouldn't be looked at like that. You know what I mean? Like, media, entertainment, sure, making lots of money, but...
Well, according to this...
Just reporting the news, like... Someone got shot up the street over there. It shouldn't cost you $80 million to learn that. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I was going to say, according to this legend that I heard, there used to be this thing called journalistic integrity. Where people actually thought that the news had a duty to inform the public about stuff. Crazy,
Yeah, there
right?
is the gay bomb.
I know, right?
Why is... That's in my way every time. Alright, so robotic skins. This is the last robot AI story for you guys tonight. And we're going to hit the break, and when we get back, we've got tons of other stuff to talk about. So, robotic skins that can...
Snarky agrees.
Robotic skins that can turn almost anything into a machine.
Anything!
This one's got a little video. Let's go ahead and get sued by them, too. Fuck it.
Come on, futurism. Bring it.
Man, I've seen this technology in a different form before. It's like a silicone almost, you know what I mean? It almost looks like they're using some sort of fabric for that.
All those little tubes are filled with the black blue AI.
Oh, don't say that. You're gonna give me nightmares, dude. Dancing socks filled with black goo AI.
Those spacesuits, completely filled with black goo. It's assumed humanoid form.
You know, speaking of which, you remember in that one Star Trek episode, I think it might have been Voyager or something, where they got repaired at some weird vending machine repair facility?
Yeah.
And they had that arm that, like, it was just an arm, and then they, like, completely rebuilt the whole facility and all that shit. Mm-hmm. I think they have something similar to that they use in space.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure.
That's, like, independent.
Kind of like the Katamari ball bot.
Alright, that's enough of this. Oh, we weren't even showing that to them.
So now they're just gonna sue us for using their music.
Great, because that music was totally worth getting sued for.
I know, right?
We'll play it again while we talk here.
But now you gotta mute it.
Oh yeah, we don't need to hear that again, because we don't want to hear that.
You Schlivok.
Schlivok. Okay, so. Oh, that's all it was a video. There was no article. Oh, God. Mm-hmm. That was a total horrible fail. It's great, though. That's why you watch the show, for the fails, because it's great.
Well,
See, look, there it is. Look, see,
yeah,
guys,
we
you see
still have
that?
the dancing sock full of black goo.
Oh God, it's nightmarish.
Mm-hmm.
Katamari ball.
Just imagine having to run through a field of those things, and they're all trying to kill you.
Fuck that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump to a quick break, and when we get back, we've got we got some DARPA. Interesting theory called quantized inertia, which basically says that dark matter doesn't even exist. What? But it's pretty badass because they're trying to make it into some type of light engine. It's gonna be fucking dope. Got more recruitment, more DARPA news. Space farce in the news again.
Yay, Space Force. And
searching for Planet X.
They found the Goblin.
And we got one guy saying dark matter don't exist, and now we got people saying dark matter detected in early universe. But as far as I know, no one's ever detected dark matter before.
Well, that's the thing. They can't really detect the dark matter itself, but they can detect gravitational anomalies caused by it.
By something.
Yeah.
By something.
Well, it's like imagine having like a stealth submarine that's
Traveling
right below
to
the surface of the
Mars.
water. You can't see the submarine, but you can see the wake.
Traveling to Mars could kill you.
Could it?
Japanese spacecraft drops robot on an asteroid.
Oh yeah, Kaguya.
NASA's got ambitious goals for crewed space exploration. First exomoon detected.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Statement about ISS. We did that one.
Did we?
Yeah, last week.
Oh.
Or the week before, whenever we talked about that shit.
Chinese armed drones in the
We
Middle
got
East.
a
Looks
ton
like we're
of-
not done with robots.
No, well, they're not. It's not AI exactly related. We do have a big old chart full of Muggle politics for you guys. Get down and gritty, dirty. Ricin, China, CRISPR. Oh God, it's so bad.
Yep.
Well, we'll see you on the other side.
Give us like 10 minutes. We'll be back.
No, the flying saucermen are the flying saucermen.
guys, we're back, hour 2.
Can't you just feel the excitement in the air?
Oh, the hour of power.
The crackling of Kundalini energy shivering up and down your spine.
Sorry about the lack of audio at the beginning of the show and the break there, but, you know...
Mistakes were made.
I blame it on the software companies, because every time it updates, there's always problems. It fucking pisses me off. And there's no way with this controller to roll it back, either.
Yeah. And of course, the black goo AI is trying to sabotage us every step of the way.
Every time I touch my phone,
the black goo is all like...
Anyway, if you like the show, give us a shout out. You head on over to Facebook, like the page, join the group. It's a great group. It's a tremendous group. Alright, it's headed by just the best lady ever, Tess. Shitpost extraordinaire, shitpost master. Lots of cool people in there, lots of cool discussions, articles. People are great, I like it, it's fun in there.
And plus, when you join the group, it makes Snarky happy.
You know, if you're from, like, Australia or something, and you're into that funky format, what's it called, podcast? Podcast.
What is a
Podcast? You can head on over to, you know, Reality Brief.
It's a broadcast that can only be heard by pod people.
realitybrief.bandcamp.com. If you're Australian, you can go ahead and download the show in podcast format. You can get it for free, or you can drop us $1, 50 cents, 24, whatever you feel like. It's also a donation outlet, but you can get the shows for free.
Because it's obnoxiously early in Australia right now.
I just put about 10, 12 or something like that. New shows up there. I got 30 in the queues going up there, guys. So if you're into that sort of thing, check it out. We got a website coming. You can go there now. It's realitybrief.net. But right now, it'll just transfer you to our Facebook page. Soon, though, it'll be a lander.
Soon. In accordance with prophecy.
And, of course, we have a Patreon account. If you feel so inclined to maybe give us $1 a month or something. Help us keep the Skype number on that nobody uses and pay for all the stupid expenses you gotta pay for, which is dumb. Why can't you just free it? Anyway, guys, first up on the agenda for the second hour, it's pretty funny. It's kind of goofy. It's funny. I think it's funny anyway. FBI agent shot by booby-trapped wheelchair in fortified home.
I mean, you're gonna have that when in big time screwing around with people's fortified homes, you know?
Dude, you know, just the headline was enough for me. Portland, Oregon. You don't say.
It sounds like some Chuck Palahniuk shit right there.
A former Southern Oregon property owner has been charged with assault on a federal officer after authorities say an FBI agent sent to the property was shot from a booby-trapped wheelchair. Law enforcement officers responded to the home in the small town of Williams on September 7th at the request of the real estate lawyer tasked with selling the property. The Oregon Live reported Monday. A criminal complaint filed in the U.S. District Court in Medford said officers found traps throughout the property, from spike strips to a circular hot tub turned on its side and rigged to roll over anyone who triggered a tripwire.
Wow, that's creative.
This dude is awesome. It was much like a scene from the movie Indiana Jones, The Raiders of the Lost Ark, in which actor Harrison Ford is forced to outrun a giant stone boulder that he inadvertently triggered by a booby trap switch. After making it past the hot tub, according to the complaint, a bomb squad and an FBI agent approached the property's manufactured home and blasted open the fortified front door. Inside the home, a wheelchair...
That's how you trigger the traps, come on.
Inside the home, a wheelchair outfitted with a fishing line, shotgun ammunition, and other items got pushed and triggered the explosion that wounded the agent, according to court documents. An X-ray found what is that?
410 gauge shotgun pellet.
410 gauge shotgun pellet in the agent's leg, so he barely got hit with anything.
One pellet.
I mean, how many pellets are in a shotgun blast? A lot.
Like 60.
Yeah,
at least.
Authorities said the makeshift weapons were created by 66-year-old Gregory Rodveld, who was forced to forfeit his property as part of an elder abuse case involving his mother. Damn, dude, maybe I don't like him so much anymore.
Sounds like some Home Alone bullshit to me.
Rodveld currently is in Arizona Maricopa County Jail, where he is in the midst of an assault trial in a separate case related to an alleged armed standoff.
This guy doesn't mess around, huh?
He has refused a court-appointed defense lawyer, the Mail Tribune reported. Rodville had been in the Arizona jail since April 2017, but courts released him in mid-August for 2 weeks so he could prepare to turn over the property. So he got out of jail for 2 weeks, went home and booby-trapped the shit out of his house. In the week since the agent was injured, a team of private contractors consisting of former military experts has inspected the property, the real estate attorney said.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's just too much, man. Like, booby trap wheelchair.
That makes me think of the guy from Alien Resurrection, who's got the shotguns built into his chair.
All right, so may have heard about this. Suspected ricin detected in mail sent to Trump, Pentagon. An envelope addressed to President Donald Trump contained a substance suspected to be ricin and appeared to be connected to similar envelopes sent to the Pentagon. So this is one going to Trump now, because we had the ones that went to the Pentagon. Right, and this is just going to be like a yakety schmackety. Didn't get to the White House.
Tested
Never
positive
entered
for
the White
ricin.
House. A source familiar with the ongoing joint federal investigation said that based on preliminary investigative activity, the White House and Pentagon letters were believed to be connected, and the substance in question was a very crude castor bean concoction that authorities were not technically calling ricin until further testing. Ricin is a highly toxic compound extracted from castor beans and has been used in pteropods. Dude, this is like, in all the articles, they're almost like word for word with each other, man. It's stupid. So, they're saying, I guess it was poorly concocted, or it was definitely homemade. So, which would kind of bring me to my next point, which is this update that Master Shitposter found earlier. Suspect arrested over ricin letters sent to Trump and Pentagon. Ex-Navy sailor. Now here's the thing. Police in Logan, Utah have arrested a man suspected of sending letters that tested positive to biotoxin ricin to the Pentagon and the White House. He's formerly a Navy sailor. Envelopes addressed to the Secretary, James Mattis, and Chief of Naval Operations, John Richardson, tested positive for ricin contamination at the Pentagon mailroom on Monday. The Secret Service said on Tuesday that another suspicious letter was addressed to Donald Trump. Okay. The suspect was identified as William Klein Allen III. Reuters report citing federal law enforcement. It was earlier reported to the U.S. Navy. He's a U.S. Navy veteran. Okay, where is it? Where's the point?
What does William Clyde Allen III know about Hillary Clinton? So apparently he sent one to Ted Cruz too, and Donald Trump.
What, did they update this since I read it earlier?
Yeah, they must have. You got time waved again.
Fuck that Mandela effect.
That's what happened in that last timeline. You're in a different timeline now.
Basically, they traced this shit back with the guy's return mailing address, which I swear, let's see, what is this? Edited 2144. I did get time waved. Look at that.
Yep.
2144. That was like just a little while ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Well, I guess they edited it. I wonder what that means. Because it did originally say that they tracked it back due to his return address. And my point being is, if you're smart enough to cook up ricin from castor bean oil, you would think you would be smart enough not to put your fucking address and name on the return,
right?
I mean, unless the guy was batshit crazy and just don't care, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It smells fishy as hell to me, man.
Yeah, I smell a patsy.
But now we got this new turn of events where they've memory hold that shit. Interesting, man.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Why would they be doing this? All right, they sent it to.
They're trying to set somebody up for something.
Okay, when was the last time? I think it was who got sent a couple of years ago, 2013, 2014. Somebody got sent ricin. Then too.
Yeah, and it was Congress people.
And then before that, we had the anthrax tags.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Most recent incident involving ricin-laced mail in Washington, D.C. was in April 2013 when a Mississippi man mailed envelopes with toxin to Senator Roger Wicker and President Barack Obama. What a weird combination that is.
Yeah.
So I mean, who knows, man? It could be some bad shit guy. You know, people do weird shit. People do shit like that. All right, maybe he knew how to do it because he was Black Ops. That's a typical poison they would use, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
So I guarantee you're never going to hear another peep about this guy.
No, you. So, you know, while we're there, I guess we'll just jump to that. China, stepping up like what? 45 yards of USS Decatur. Chinese warship came within 45 yards of USS Decatur in South China. Decatur, my bad. I'm seeing ends where ends don't exist. So, this is scary because, I mean, think about...
Is that whole island there a warship?
Think about Gulf of Tonkin, right?
Well, they basically let that happen. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was a setup.
Well, it never happened.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so if something similar to this that never even happened jumped off a war, this to me is kind of, you know, at least stirring. I mean, the U.S. Navy destroyer, USS Decatur.
It's Decatur.
Decatur.
I promise.
Decoder ring. Had to maneuver to avoid a collision on Sunday after a Chinese warship came within 45 yards of his bow as the American ship transited a disputed island chain in the South China Sea on Sunday. The close encounter that the U.S. Navy characterized as unsafe and unprofessional.
Disputed by who?
Well, South China Sea, Taiwan's down there.
Yeah.
Right? So that's disputed of who. You know what I mean? Taiwan says they're Taiwan. China says, no, you China, bitch. That's dispute.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so at approximately 0300...
0830 local time. September 30th.
Go ahead and read this. I can't even
PRC Liu Yang destroyer approached the USS Decatur in an unsafe and unprofessional manner in the vicinity of the Gavin Reef in the South China Sea, said Captain Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown, a U.S. Pacific Fleet spokesman. All right, Chuck. What happened, Chuck?
They took a picture of it?
Yeah. The Gavin Reef is located in the Spratly Islands chain in the South China Sea, where China claims that 7 man-made islands are their own because they built them. So the close encounter with the Chinese warship occurred as the American destroyer was carrying out a Freedom of Navigation operation, FONOPS, in the Spratlys, the U.S. said. The U.S. Navy routinely undertakes FONOP missions worldwide to challenge excessive territorial claims of international shipping lanes. Alright, so that's the beef. They're building these islands right in the international shipping lanes. I mean, that's, you kind of build an island, you put it wherever you want, right? USS Decatur had sailed within 12 nautical miles of Gavin and Johnson Reefs in the Spratly Islands when it was approached by the Chinese destroyer. The Chinese Navy destroyer conducted a series of increasingly aggressive maneuvers, accompanied by warnings for Decatur to depart the area, Brown
Bounce
said.
Now.
So, if you scroll down, we can tell people more about how the PRC destroyer approached within 45 yards of the Decatur's bow, after which the Decatur maneuvered to prevent a collision, Charlie Brown said. Snoopy could not be reached for comment. A U.S. defense official characterized the close encounter as having been of short duration. According to another U.S. official, the Chinese warship was initially about 500 yards on the Decatur's port side, and then moved ahead of the Decatur and cut across the American destroyer's bow at a distance of 45 yards. It's only 135 feet. To help visualize that distance, a baseball catcher throwing the ball to second base to to out a runner throws the baseball a distance of 127 feet. So, just for comparison, it's a baseball's throw away. Chinese vessels have approached U.S. Navy ships during previous FONOPs in the South China Sea. This appears to be the closest yet. U.S. Navy ships and aircraft operate throughout the Indo-Pacific routinely, including the South China Sea, and as we have for decades, our forces will continue to fly, sail, and operate anywhere international law allows. There's no immediate comments from China.
Of course not.
Over the last week, a U.S. and Chinese military relationship has deteriorated as both countries are engaged in a bitter trade dispute.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, a U.S. Air Force B-52 flew a mission through the Southeast China Sea, and 2 other B-52 flights were carried out through the South China Sea. Also last week, China refused a port of call in Hong Kong to the U.S. the Navy ship USS Wasp, slated for October, and pulled a top admiral from a scheduled meeting with his U.S. Navy counterpart. On Monday, a U.S. official confirmed that Defense Secretary Jim Mattis had canceled a planned trip to China in October, after China had downgraded the level of officials he was to meet. So
It almost makes you wonder, does China got anything to do with the ricin?
Yeah, well,
because, it wouldn't
some
be
serious beef jumping off here.
It wouldn't be a party unless China gets involved, you know what I mean? Because now they've got armed drones flying around the Middle East.
So yeah, what we told you guys about no more death robot stories, yeah, we lied.
Well, it's technically not a robot.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, AI.
It's not an AI. Well, I mean, when's the last time you saw a whole lot of organic intelligence in our government, huh?
Zing! So, yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to bother with reading this.
Well, let's give him a paragraph, right?
Go for it.
Dubai United Arab Emirates, home of the 7-Elevens of the Middle East and the bird jet packs and fancy, custom-built islands. Hey, maybe that's part of the draw, too. Maybe there's some, back and forth on the whole artificial island thing here. High above Yemen's rebel-held city of Hodeidah, a drone controlled by Emirati forces hovered as an SUV carrying a top Shiite Houthi rebel official turned onto a small street and stopped, waiting for another vehicle in its convoy to catch up. Seconds later, the SUV exploded in flames, killing Saleh al-Samad, a top political figure. The drone that fired the missile in April was not one of the many American aircraft that had been buzzing across the skies of Yemen, Iraq, and Afghanistan since September 11, 2001. It was Chinese, so we're switching things up a little. Yeah, they want some of the action. Across the Middle East, countries locked out of purchasing U.S.-made drones due to rules over excessive civilian casualties are being wooed by Chinese arms dealers, who are the world's main distributor of armed drones.
So, look, while we're on the topic of Chinese and drones...
Yeah. Nice.
Drone used to deliver Chinese takeaway to Wheatfield Prison in Dublin. It goes to show inmates will go to great lengths to get what they want. A drone was used to deliver a Chinese takeaway to a Dublin prison, the Irish Mirror has learned. Jail staff discovered containers from a fast food outlet in a bin in the yard of the Wheatfield jail, leading them to believe it had been delivered by a drone. That's your first. Not somebody who worked there couldn't have possibly brought the food into him. That's the way that's what the staff in the jail believe anyway. The food containers were found about 6 weeks ago.
See, they don't care of food, but it's the UK, so they're worried that the chopsticks might be used as a weapon.
Prison staff were left scratching their heads to know how it got there, and a drone was the only possible explanation. Dude, get the fuck out of here. A spokesman for the Irish Prison Service said last night, "I have not heard of any such delivery/incident. I won't, for obvious reasons, go into details about the size of the holes in the nets, but I can tell you they cover all the yard. As well as the high-tech devices being used for the unusual request, they are increasingly dropping drugs into the facility. And although the entire exercise yard is covered, prisoners are using human pyramids to collect contraband." So, it's just the best mental image, man, like a human pyramid, like coming out of the top of a cage, like trying to grab some Chinese food and pot.
Mm-hmm.
See, look, this is what happens when you get on the marijuana drugs. You go to jail, and you crave Chinese food. Right? Stay away from the not even once. Not even once. Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Well, on the topic of chopsticks being used for weapons...
And the UK censoring the shit out of everything.
Go for it.
The UK is basically a meme at this point, by the way.
It is,
man. It's just one big meme. The UK government is planning to regulate hate speech online. It's an ugly reality we see in every corner of the web. Racism, bigotry, misogyny, political extremism, stuff that scares the left, anything that, somebody at a college doesn't like. Hate speech seems to thrive on the internet like a cancer. It persists and flourishes on social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. Sometimes there's even pictures of frogs involved. Oh, come on.
Oh, that's your fault.
That's your fault.
Mm-mm.
No, it's just not working at all now. You broke it. So, they certainly don't claim to welcome it, but they're having a hell of a time keeping it in check. No AI is yet sophisticated enough to flag all hate speech perfectly. Especially when humans resort to crafty stuff like, typing things with 9s instead of Gs. So they've asked human moderators to join the robots in the trenches. It's an imperfect, time-consuming process. So social media sites have come under increasing scrutiny to root out their hate speech problem. They also come
It's like
they've run into a big problem, namely an entire horde of 13-year-olds, and gay is pretty much the only word in the vocabulary. So, but they're coming out.
The gay bomb.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah,
hey, I used that sample correctly for once.
Feels bad, man.
They also go up against the limits of how much they can or will do. So whose responsibility is it to mediate hate speech? Is it up to online platforms themselves, or should the government intervene?
Who says it needs to be mediated?
Yeah, why don't you just block people that say shit that you don't like?
Exactly. I mean, what?
But nobody.
You're not allowed to have an opinion.
No,
basically.
Well, you're
unless
not.
It was formulated by the state. Like, I'm not condoning, like, hate, like bigotism or whatever, or anything like that. But, someone's opinion is someone's opinion. It's not a crime.
Well, and what gets me is when people bang the drum for censorship, basically what they're saying is I'm incapable of controlling my own feelings, so I want you to control them for me.
I never understood it, man.
And that's the
people. Yeah, the people.
The clarion call of the SJW is I'm incapable of governing myself, so govern me good and hard.
Fast and long.
So the British government seems to think the answer is both. Probe? Yeah, pretty much.
Anal probe is ready.
The Home Office and Department of Digital Culture, Media, and Sports, the DCMS, a department responsible for regulating broadcasting and the internet, is drafting plans for regulation that would make platforms like Facebook and Twitter legally responsible for all of the content they host, according to BuzzFeed News.
Dude, please, I hope to God that they do that, just because Facebook will go away.
Seriously. So just playing this will get you kicked off of Facebook.
That's why I prefer
What was that one? Alright, yeah, go ahead.
So in a statement to Futurism, the DCMS says that it's been primarily encouraged by internet companies to take action on a voluntary basis. Because being threatening to censor you out of existence totally makes things voluntary, right?
Yeah, it was...
Wait, you guys are Nazis.
Yep. Looking at you, Facebook. But progress has been slow, and that's why it plans to intervene with statutory intervention. There's another thing that starts with statutory that's not fun at all either. But this is the kind of government intervention. Is this really the right way forward when it comes to hate speech online? Here at Reality Brief, we say no.
No,
but
absolutely not.
Experts aren't convinced that it is.
Here at Reality Brief, there's no such thing as hate speech.
Pretty much, it's just speech.
It's speech. Someone doesn't like someone or something, and they say fucked up shit about it. There's no need to make it a crime. What the hell ever happened to sticks and stones, guys? You remember saying that shit when you were kids?
Uh-huh. What are you? I know you are, but what am I? So, yeah. So, details about DCMS's plans are scant, and it's still early in development. But what we do know so far is that the legislation BuzzFeed reports would have two parts. One, it would introduce takedown timeframes within which online platforms have to take down hate speech or face fines. Two, it would standardize age verification for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram users. A white paper detailing these plans will allegedly be published later this year. And, I think that also speaks to the danger of letting something like Facebook or Google infiltrate the entire web. Like, show me a website that you can't log into with either Facebook or Google.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
And, I mean, granted, it's a real time saver to not have to punch in a new password for every website you go to. But, the flip side of that is that when one platform, like Google.com, is still just a website. You know what I mean? Facebook.com is still just one website out of the entire internet, and there are people who act like that's all of the internet is Facebook and Google.
The other thing about this is it sets a fucking precedent Like, you know, hate speech can be loosely defined, you know what I mean? Someone can say that a post about 9/11, whatever it may be, you know, could be hate speech.
Yeah, or
because
unfairly criticizing
you're
one nation's
mad.
foreign policies.
You're mad at the government. That's hate speech against the government. The government would never do something like that.
You don't think that cops should be able to do anything they want? Why do you hate cops?
See, this kind of type of shit always comes wrapped in you know, fucking rainbows and unicorns, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We want everybody to be nice to each other and stop with the hate speech. It's fucking ridiculous, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like money.
So, unfortunately, hate speech is a whack... Oh, here we go. Indeed, these platforms have been dealing with hate speech for as long as they've existed. There's nothing new about hate speech on online platforms, says Brett Fishman, a professor in law, business, and economics at Villanova University. The British government may be trying to put in a law to stop hate speech too quickly to come up with anything that will work the way it's supposed to. Unfortunately, hate speech is a whack-a-mole that moves far faster than publishers seem to be able to. As a result, a lot of it goes unmediated. For instance, hate speech from far-right extremist groups in the UK often still falls through the cracks. Well, that's just because the left can't meme, but fueling xenophobic
That's
beliefs...
what it is. If the left could meme, this wouldn't even be a fucking issue.
Right? Yeah, in extreme cases, the kind of hate speech that can lead to physical violence and the radicalization of impressionable minds on the internet. Because, you know, impressionable minds are totally susceptible to cartoon frogs. Jim Killock, executive director for the Open Rights Group in the UK, a non-profit committed to preserving and promoting citizens' rights on the internet, unless it's the right to post pictures of cartoon frogs, thinks the legislation, were it to pass tomorrow, just wouldn't be just ineffective. It might even prove to be counterproductive. The rampant hate speech online, Killock believes, is symptomatic of a much larger problem. In some ways, Facebook is a mirror of our own society. You know, let's not even get started on 4chan or Reddit.
Oh my god.
The tidal wave of unpleasantness, like racism and many other things, has come on the back of feeling disquiet about powerlessness in society, people wanting someone else to blame. And you know what? For real, like, here at Reality Brief, we tend to reject every form of collectivism. And to me, racism is just the lowest and most disgusting and repugnant form of collectivism.
I like collecting things.
So, unfortunately, this kind of disillusionment with society won't change overnight. But when a policy only addresses the symptoms of systemic injustice instead of the actual issues, the government is making a mistake. By censoring those who feel like they are being censored already, the government is reinforcing their beliefs, and that's not a good sign, especially when those who are being censored are the ones who are actively spreading hate speech online themselves. Plus, a law like the one that DCMS has proposed would effectively make certain kinds of speech illegal, even if that's not what the law says. Killock argues that while a lot of online material may be unpleasant, it doesn't often violate any laws. It's not a crime to be tasteless, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, yeah, in this case. And it shouldn't be up to companies to decide where the line is between the two lines. He adds, if people are breaking the law, frankly, it is the job of the courts to set those boundaries. But there's good reason to avoid redrawing those legal boundaries for what kind of behavior online should be enforced, even if it is technically not illegal. The government might have to scroll down to finish reading the article.
Did you just call me the government? Go fuck yourself.
The government might have to adjust much wider sweeping common law that concerns the freedom of speech. That is probably not going to happen. And you know, somebody like, you remember that one guy, Count Dankula? A British
No, but that shit sounds awesome.
No, all right. Well, the guy who he's a British YouTuber, and he got in a world of hum for teaching his dog. The guy's not a Nazi at all, but he thought it was funny because he had this pug dog that did this little thing where he like put one of his paws up and it looked like a Nazi salute. And so he taught the pug when he said, you know,
Seagull.
Yeah, the pug would do a little Nazi salute. And he seriously, like, got taken to court and they sued the shit out of him for it. Like, they prosecuted him for this. And so, yeah, like, that's where we are, you know, in 2018 in the UK.
And the English like
we're
Hitler,
arresting
man.
people for dog tricks. Well, this same guy recently, he's part of a party over there called UKIP, which, Jesus, you thought being libertarians in America was hard. God damn, I reckon. This guy was basically arguing for a British Constitution, like the British equivalent of, a Bill of Rights. Probably never going to happen, but, hey, more power to you, guy.
No, them king-loving bastards will never do that.
No, probably not.
Are you done with this, or you think we need...
Yeah, so basically they're trying to say, well, we need to find a way to, censor individual people, and that way our operators at, Facebook can continue to keep feeding our intelligence agencies what they want to know. So... Oh, yeah, so guess what? As if the news about things here on Earth aren't depressing enough, you may have not as many options to get the hell away from it as we thought, because now The Independent is reporting that traveling to Mars and deep into space could kill astronauts by destroying their guts.
See, I recently had a revelation after reading this article. This is obviously what happened to me. So they kidnapped me and brought me to Mars, which is why my guts are all fucked.
So you got 20 in back?
No, I don't think it was a 20
Maybe it was
in
like
back.
a 5 in back?
I think it was like, yeah. No, not even that. Just like a month or two. Like, but no back, maybe. I don't know.
Well, then, was that really you in the hospital, or was that a clone?
Could have been a clone. So, traveling long distances in space could destroy astronauts' guts, according to a new NASA-funded study. So, with something like this, maybe it will fuck somebody up if you travel a certain way like that. Maybe it won't. I got a hard time with anything from NASA.
Mm-hmm.
You know what NASA stands for, right?
Never a straight answer.
No. Nazis are super awesome.
Aww.
Mm-hmm. That's why they named it NASA, because they thought Nazis are super awesome.
Well, yeah, they gave them all them jobs.
The research raises substantial red flags about the possibility of... that was hate speech. Fuck. Alright. You're too late. Don't even do it now. The research raises substantial red flags about the possibilities of humans taking journeys to places such as Mars. It follows previous studies that suggest such journeys could do significant damage to people's brains and might age them prematurely. The new research subjected mice to the same kinds of bombardment of galactic cosmic radiation that would affect humans if they were on long space journeys.
You see, they are insane.
That radiation can cause damage to the gastrointestinal tissue that would lead to long-term functional alterations. And the study also raises concerns that those astronauts would be at high risk of developing tumors in their stomach and colon.
So they'd probably just have to put you in a tube-shaped spacecraft that's spinning to give you that, fake gravity.
Well, no, they're saying it's radiation, cosmic radiation.
You mean shield radiation.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I don't really understand why this would even be an issue. Heavy ion. What about the people that spend all that? Well, I guess they're within the Van Allen belt, the ISS.
Well, but you only go through the Van Allen belts for like 20 minutes. It's not that long.
No, I'm talking about the people in the ISS. I'm like...
Oh, no, that's well inside the Van Allen belts.
Heavy ions such as iron and silicon are damaging because of their greater mass compared to no-mass photons such as X-rays and gamma rays, prevalent on Earth as well as low-mass protons in outer space. The study's senior investigator, Kamal Data, a senior scientist at Georgetown University, with the current shielding technology, it is difficult to protect astronauts from the adverse effects of heavy ion radiation. Although there may be a way to use medicines to counter these effects, no such agent has been developed yet. While short trips like the times astronauts travel to the moon may not expose them to this level of damage, the real concern is lasting injury from long trips such as Mars or other deep space missions, which would be much longer. So what do you suppose they do in the secret space programs? Do you think they got shielding, or do you think they use some sort of vaccine like Star Trek? Because
they probably have better shielding technology.
In Star Trek they're always like giving people fucking vaccines and shit for different types of radiation.
Yeah, but you know what? I remember reading an article. Yeah, this is back from 2013. This article came out, and this was from CNN. Shields up. Scientists work to produce Star Trek deflector device. So this was in 2013 that they were already talking about working on deflector dish technology. So they even made a model that had a mini magnetosphere. And the idea was that they were going to take this and scale it up to do something like put it on Mars and, generate an artificial field to, keep all that radiation off of people on Mars. But, they think it's small and it only affects a small area. But... if they were already talking about developing this tech in 2013, then, what's going on here, huh?
I mean, maybe this is, like, just a push to, like, try to... Because you know how the private sector is, like, Elon Musk and all, they're dying to try and go to Mars.
Yeah.
right? Well, if they don't want them there, they'll cook up whatever the fuck they want. But I got a feeling that ain't nothing gonna stop that dude from trying to go to Mars.
Oh, no.
Not unless it's just like some super deep psyop and he's like, black agent.
Which is always possible.
Absolutely.
We will never write that possibility
and it
off.
could be that any space travel done by SpaceX, whether it be to Mars or the Moon, is going to be, performed in a way that it won't, expose anything.
Yeah.
If it is indeed some giant psyop operation shit going on, like... Alright, where were we?
So yeah. With the current shielding technology that you're allowed to know about, that DARPA hasn't been working on for half a century, it's difficult to protect astronauts from the adverse effects of heavy ion radiation, although there may be a way to... Oh yeah, we did that. Mm-hmm. While short trips, like the times the astronauts went to the moon, may not be enough to expose them to this level of damage, the real concern is lasting injury from a long trip such as Mars or other deep space missions that would be longer. The GI tract is in a continuous state of self-renewal and replacement, as its cells continually change. The top layer is replaced every 3 to 5 days as new cells move to take the place of older ones.
I need some new top layers, man.
Oh, I know. We've been trying to get this guy some medical nanites for a long time.
I mean, you might have thought the Mars thing was a
if
joke.
You got the hookup,
my guts are fucked up right now.
Yeah, and if you do have the hookup on medical nanites, 757-528-8130. Call and tell us all about it.
Or if you have access to the green goo or something.
Yeah, not the black goo.
No,
just the green goo.
No, not the black goo. Just the green goo.
So, so any disturbance of this replacement mechanism leads to malfunctioning of physiological processes such as nutrient absorption and starts pathologic processes such as cancer, says Albert Fornace Jr., director of NASA's Specialized Center of Research at GUMC. Even though the dose given to the mice was very low, it lasted a long time to stimulate the effect of a deep space mission, and it appears that the changes are irreversible. Scientists now believe that the same problems could apply to other organs, that further work needs to be done to understand the full damage that deep space travel might do to human bodies. We have documented the effects of deep space radiation on some vital organs, but we believe that similar damage responses may occur in many organs, said Mr. Data. Not Data, Data, two T's. It's important to understand these effects in advance so that we can do everything we can to protect our future space travelers. So if you want to read more about, deep space scrambling your kitten guts like a kitten with a ball of yarn, stop on in by independent.co.uk and just, look it up.
Check this out, man. DARPA wants researchers that think like Dr. Evil, but for good.
What?
So they want stupid-ass ideas like sharks with laser beams on their head?
And for $1 million, we're going to give them $1 million.
The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, since its conception, has embraced what amounts to a truism in the world of defense. Evolving battlefields present warfighters with evolving challenges. It is this philosophy that spawned DARPA's newest competition. Competition. The Subterranean Challenge is a DARPA-hosted technology acquisition program that will work with industry and academia to develop new systems to allow warfighters to rapidly map, navigate, and search underground environments. Now, this came up a while ago, and we talked about, what was the... I guess when they first put out, the call for this, it hit our radar, and we were talking about it. And at that time, the big hubbub was all the fucking shit supposedly going on underneath Antarctica and all that shit, and then finding and other alien civilizations and all that. So, basically, they're getting on with it. And let's watch their little video. We got all that.
Program manager in the tactical tech. My name is Timothy Chung. I'm a program manager in the Tactical Technology Office at DARPA. I'm pleased to announce DARPA's newest challenge, the DARPA Subterranean Challenge. This competition aims to explore innovative approaches and new technologies to map, navigate, and search underground environments. Underground settings are becoming increasingly relevant to global security and safety. Rising populations and urbanization drive the demand not only to build up, but also to build down, requiring first responders to perform their duties underground. In many ways, subterranean environments have remained an untapped domain in terms of developing breakthrough technologies for national security. That's where the DARPA Subterranean Challenge comes in. We're looking for audacious ideas on how to overcome the numerous difficulties these locations present. Poor visibility and communications, difficult access, and unpredictable terrain among them, and provide previously unimaginable capabilities for warfighters and emergency responders. The competition itself is structured around 2 complementary research tracks. Teams can choose the systems track to develop hardware and software to test on a physical course, or they can choose the virtual track and develop software-based approaches to test on a simulated course. Like previous challenges, DARPA-funded and self-funded teams will compete side by side. Teams in both tracks will compete in 3 preliminary circuit events and the final event. Each circuit event will explore the difficulties of operating in a specific underground environment. The first will focus on human-made tunnel systems. The second will focus on underground urban environments such as mass transit and municipal infrastructure. The third will focus on naturally occurring cave systems. In 2021, we plan to hold the final event, which will put the teams to the test with courses that incorporate diverse challenges from all 3 environments. The winner of the systems track will take home a $2 million prize, while the winner of the virtual track will earn a $750,000 prize. We're interested in all your great ideas, whether you're part of a small company or a large one, whether you're in academia or industry, or whether you're in U.S. or international organizations.
DARPA gotta have that.
To get started, we'll be hosting a workshop in January 2018, where I'll share the broader vision of the DARPA Subterranean Challenge and provide more detail on the key technology areas that we want to explore. At the same time, I'm eager to learn from you. Interactive lightning talks and poster sessions will offer the chance to learn from one another and brainstorm on the innovative approaches, concepts, and technologies that you could bring to the table.
Yep.
You're working with a professional here!
So there you have it. They're gearing up for, large-scale, I would assume, semi-public, public underground warfare. Could it be to do with, the war they're fighting in?
They're trying to figure out how to get one of those swarms
shit,
of killbots to work in a cave.
Yeah. They do this kind of thing, these challenge things, all the time. Trying to figure out different ways to do things. What was that guy that did that one with the drones? Your buddy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What's it? They were trying to use drones for, I think, like, commercial fishing.
So they had to go and, navigate through a house and perform a specific option is what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they even have, drone racing now.
Mm-hmm. So they when that stuff first was coming out, they put out this call, and they had a challenge like this, and they had people come together and try to develop drones that could, pull out specific tasks, like a little tiny drone that flies in through a window, avoids some shit, and then picks up a pen. You know what I mean?
And then flies away.
But they do that kind of stuff all the time, so it's just interesting. I can't imagine there's what are they planning for, who are we getting ready to go to war with that's got vast underground infrastructure like that?
Everyone. No, definitely China.
Yeah, that's gonna suck if we go to war with China, man. They got so many damn people.
So, you know what I think is probably a better idea than fighting over tiny little scraps of emotive dust? Yeah, fighting over who gets to be the temporary masters of a tiny little ball of mud is moving out into the rest of the solar system. I think that's a way better idea. And we just discovered some new real estate on the edge of the solar system, which I think is pretty cool. I've been psyched about this ever since I heard about it. It doesn't quite measure up to, Jupiter or Venus or Mars, but I don't know. Planet Goblin definitely has a ring to it. And so they've discovered this helping to make the case for Planet 9, a new dwarf planet. And they're referring to it as the Goblin. Yeah. So it's they've discovered the Goblin, and here's an artist's concept of what they think it could look like.
They kind of got trees and some water and shit over there.
Well, to me it looks very much like Pluto, but some of the methane ice might have sort of a
Right.
greenish hue to it. Because keep in mind, at the edge of the solar system, like the reddish stuff is probably tholins. The yellowish stuff could be like oxygen or nitrogen ice. But the kind of stuff that's normally a gas here on Earth freezes solid that far out from the sun. And you thought Pluto was far. We're talking, like, okay, Pluto's mean distance from the sun is around 40 astronomical units. The Earth is 1 astronomical unit by comparison. That 93 million miles, that's our, astronomical unit. So Pluto is 40 of those away from the sun. The Goblin never gets any closer than about 65.
So is that still in the Kuiper Belt or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, it's still in the Kuiper Belt. So it's technically a Kuiper Belt object.
So what do they get so excited about? There's
Well,
a bunch
just
of them out
it's
there.
cool finding new ones and actually being able to put names to them, and eventually we'll have the whole thing mapped.
Especially like Goblin.
Yeah, so the Goblin. It's in the outer reaches of the solar system. It never gets any closer to the sun than 6 billion miles. But its orbital configuration points to the existence of a much larger and more distant planet, the elusive Planet 9.
No.
So, the Goblin, or 2015 TG-38 as it's formally called, is what's known as an Extreme Trans-Neptunian Object, or ETNO. As the moniker implies, these objects, which are potentially thousands of them, as far as we know, and you know what, nobody wants to memorize all this shit.
I think it just identifies as an extreme trans-Neptunian object.
Maybe it just could be a moderate trans-Neptunian object, and it's being slandered. But, nevertheless...
We go with that hate speech again.
Well, you know what it is? People are cool memorizing 8 planets, right? Maybe 9 if you count Pluto. But nobody wants to remember
Like
Eris and
78.
Sedna and Quawar and Haumea, Maki, Eris,
Maki.
Chaos. Yeah,
Doesn't that mean like sushi roll?
Maybe in Japan, but it's an Inuit goddess.
Oh, okay.
But there's a bunch I can't even pronounce. Huya. There's a bunch of them that have already been named.
Huya!
And nobody wants to memorize all these friggin' little ice balls out on the edge of the solar system.
You see? They are insane.
I know, right? The names they come up with these things. So what's remarkable is not that the Goblin exists, but that astronomers were actually able to detect it because it's tiny. It's like a fraction of the size of the moon.
It's like a golf ball.
Yeah. So the researchers who discovered this object, led by Scott Shepard from the Carnegie Institution for Science and Chadwick Trujillo from the Northern Arizona University, estimate that the Goblin is around 185 miles in diameter, 300 kilometers, barely big enough to pull itself into a ball. Because any smaller than that, there's really no meaningful concept of downhill because there's not enough gravity. So at this size, it could very well be sphere-like in shape, and its mean distance from the sun is about 80 astronomical units. Okay, so, I was wrong about 65. Twice as far as Pluto at the closest, where 1 AU is the average distance from the Earth to the sun. That's 7.45 billion miles, 12 billion kilometers.
Goblin.
So, yeah. So here's a handy-dandy map that shows us just how far out the Goblin goes. So...
Goblin.
That's really far, actually, and you see that inner pass.
Is it really far?
That's mind-bogglingly far. Like, we're talking distances that, like, dwarf the whole rest of the solar system. Pluto's about 34 AU from the sun. Okay, average is 40. I know what the hell I'm talking about.
You don't know that.
I do, too. So,
What'd you do? Measure it? What'd you do?
I
measuring tape out?
I
and measure the
astrally
shit?
projected there, okay? So the Goblin is roughly 2.5 times further away. So yeah, it's out there.
Well, we got a question from the chat room.
Oh, we do?
They would like to know what kind of goblins are on this planet.
Well, the green ones, obviously.
I mean, come on, guy.
They could be ass goblins. We're not sure.
Ass goblins.
But yeah, it actually gets even farther away than that.
Goblins.
The Goblin has a super elongated orbit, and it takes about 40,000 years to complete a full
super
year
elongated
on,
knob goblin orbit.
Yeah, so 40,000 years of knob goblin. And it never gets any closer than 65 AU. It's perihelion point. 2 other ETNOs, 2012 VP-113, also discovered by Shepard and Trujillo, which they haven't thought of a snappy name yet for, and Sedna have even longer perihelia at 80 AU and 76 AU, respectively. So Goblin now boasts the third most distant perihelion known. But its aphelion, the point at which it's furthest from the sun, is a whopping 2,300 AU. So that's 313 billion.
That's a whole lot of AU.
313.8 billion miles, or 503 billion kilometers. So that's pretty much half of the distance to the next star.
Damn.
I mean, they say that. So
how far does the Kuiper Belt go out?
Really far.
Just to the next star? I mean, is like, are we all just like...
Well, they found that the heliopause is definitely before the next star. So maybe like a third, a fourth of the way there.
Wow.
Which makes me wonder, when do we bump into Alpha Centauri's heliopause?
So that means there's only like a half the distance that is empty space in between.
Yeah, it's interstellar space. So the Goblin's extreme orbital path means that it never comes close enough to impose gravitational influence on the solar system's giant planets, and even if it did, it's hardly big enough. If it got caught in Jupiter's gravitational field, it would become a moon. And at the astounding distance of 2300 AU, it gets slotted into an emerging astronomical category known as inner Oort cloud objects. So that's the inner Oort cloud. Think about how far the outer Oort cloud goes.
That's no moon.
Of which 2012 VP 113, we're just going to call that Mike Pence. It's cold, distant, and yeah. So and Sedna are the only other two known members. We think that there could be thousands of small bodies like the Goblin out on the outer solar system's fringes, but their distance makes finding them very difficult because it's really dark out there and you can't see much, and these things aren't exactly all shiny balls of ice. A lot of them are covered in tholins and soot and other stuff.
Tholians?
Well, this guy's name, in fact, said David Tholin, but it's spelled with an E instead of an I. An astronomer at the University of Hawaii.
So these planets are covered in tholians, not goblins?
Yeah,
Holy
I know, crazy,
shit,
huh?
You heard it first.
For anybody who doesn't know, tholins, Tholin, they're organic compounds that give Pluto its sort of reddish color.
And if anybody doesn't know, tholians are like fire spider beings.
Yeah, so tholians would actually be on Venus because it's definitely
so what are they doing
way
out
too
there?
friggin' cold out there.
What are they doing out there?
Need pressure suits. I don't know, maybe mining for dilithium.
Fuck.
So currently, we'd only detect the Goblin when it's near on its closest approach to the Sun. For some 99% of its 40,000-year orbit, it would be way too faint to see. Mike Brown, not unrelated to Charlie Brown from our previous article, an astronomer at the California Institute of Technology who wasn't affiliated with his new study in any way, says it's important to understand that this isn't the Oort cloud, which is actually much further away, beginning at around 2,000 to 5,000 AU, reaching out as far as 50,000 AU.
Oh.
So, okay, so they're calling it part of the inner Oort cloud, though I feel like that it's probably not the right term. We haven't yet come up with the correct way to describe these very distant objects, because we don't know what's out there. The key, though, is that it's very distant, and that it never gets very close to Neptune. Basically, there are only two other objects like it now that we know about, so adding even one more greatly increases our understanding of this population. So, we gotta redo the whole first half of the show, folks. Phantom Spy was asleep.
Oh, shit. We ain't got much time left. Let's see, we got...
it's never enough time.
I want to do this one, man, because this was crazy.
Oh, the quantized inertia?
Mm-hmm. This is the thing
honestly, you know what? That excites me a lot, and I want to talk about the exomoon too.
Well, contain yourself, okay? What the hell? It's not loading. I guess we won't be talking. There it is.
It feels bad, man.
It does feel bad. DARPA is researching quantized inertia. A theory many think is pseudoscience. Oh yeah, we're all over this shit. DARPA gave researchers $1.3 million to build a prototype engine that is fueled by light. The Defense Advanced Research Projects recently awarded a $1.3 million contract to an international team of researchers to study quantized inertia, a controversial theory that has some physicists dismiss as pseudoscience. QI is an alternative theory of inertia, a property of matter that describes an object's resistance to acceleration. QI was first proposed by University of Plymouth physicist Mike McCullen in 2007. but is still considered a fringe theory by many, if not most, physicists today. McCullough has used the theory to explain galactic rotation speeds without the need for dark matter, but he believes that it may one day provide the foundation for launching space vehicles without fuel. The DARPA grant will allow McCullough and his team of collaborators from Germany and Spain to undertake a series of experiments that will apply QI in a laboratory setting for the first time. This will involve creating experimental QI engines and using incredibly sensitive detectors to see if they can produce thrust, which would open the door for interstellar travel, satellites that never decay, and other impossible applications.
So it's like a perpetual motion machine without the perpetual motion.
McCullough told me that QI is certainly controversial, but also added that DARPA is famous for taking chances on things that aren't widely accepted if there is the potential for a huge payoff. So, DARPA's shooting craps. The experiments are, in a way...
It's not their money.
Yeah, exactly. The experiments are, in a way, a middle finger to the physicists who spent the last decade dismissing QI as pseudoscience. Or, as one physicist I spoke to on the background described it to me, concatenation of buzzwords and bullshit.
Reality brief. Every Wednesday night.
Who needs dark matter anyway?
Me?
Mass is a fundamental property of all matter, but there are different ways to define it. One way is to refer to the object's inertial mass, which describes the object's resistance to acceleration. An intuitive way to think about this is to imagine punching a glass of water versus punching a car.
How about punching the guy who wrote this article?
I want to punch the guy who wrote that last one. Assuming that the force, the punch, applied to both objects at the same time, the less massive object, the glass of water, will experience much more acceleration than the more massive object. Another way to define mass is by the object's ability to attract other objects. This is also known as the object's gravitational mass.
I'll accelerate your ass with my fist, face.
I'll gravitate your face, ass. In the history of physics, every experiment has shown that an object's inertial mass is equal to its gravitational mass. This relationship was codified by Albert Einstein in the early 20th century as the equivalence principle, which basically states that an observer will be unable to tell the difference between the effects of a constant gravitational field and a constant acceleration. Consider the case of someone standing in a windowless elevator. If the elevator is placed on the Earth's surface, the person will experience a constant gravitational force equal to 9.8 meters per second squared. Yet if someone were to attach a rocket boosters to the elevator, like Japan, and accelerate it to 9.8 meters per second squared, the person inside the elevator wouldn't be able to tell if they were rocketing through space or planted firmly on Earth's surface. The equivalence principle was the starting point for Einstein's theory of general relativity, and is a bedrock of classical Newtonian physics. Yet in the 20th century, it became increasingly difficult to reconcile this principle with cosmological observations.
So basically, let me boil this down for you. You got a galaxy, right? Like when you stir a cup of coffee, the inside of the cup of coffee is moving faster than the bubbles at the edge of the cup of coffee, right? So when we discovered that our galaxy was a giant spiral, at first they assumed that the stuff at the center would be rotating faster than the stuff at the edge.
Like the moving image on the left.
Yeah. Like our solar system. Like even on a solar system scale, Mercury and Venus are orbiting the sun a lot faster than, say, Jupiter or Neptune. Now, that's not really how it works. It seems that on something galactic scale, the stuff on the outside is moving faster than it should be. Maybe not quite as fast as the stuff in the middle, but way faster than it should be. So something is affecting the level of inertia that affects stuff on a galactic scale. We don't know what it is.
And that's where you get the dark matter theory from.
Right.
So in particular, thousands of observations of galactic rotation show that there isn't enough visible matter in these galaxies to account for their movement, which is them moving faster than expected. According to classic Newtonian physics, the rotational speed of stars should decrease in proportion to their distance from the center of their host galaxy, because the influence of gravity is also decreasing. Yet, as Vera Rubin's galactic observations demonstrated in the 1970s, the rotational velocity of stars didn't decrease, it stayed the same. All right, so dark matter is invisible to the... All right, so the curious observation created a deep rift among cosmological physicists. Most physicists adopted Rubin's explanation, which attributed galactic rotation to the presence of a type of theoretical particle called dark matter.
See, whether or not dark matter is really a thing, I think it's just how gravity curves space, and we really don't understand enough about gravity or how it interacts with space to really come up with a good theory of why it works the way it does on a solar system scale versus a galactic scale. So, dark matter, if it exists, is invisible to the naked eye and only weakly interacts with normal matter, but its sheer abundance, physicists estimate dark matter accounts for 85% of the matter in the universe, meant that it could induce notable gravitational physics on large objects. Dark matter is believed to be mostly concentrated in a halo around a galaxy, and the gravitational influence of the dark matter halo is used to explain why the rotational velocity of stars doesn't decrease on the edge of galaxies compared to their center. So, what is quantized inertia? This is the premise of modified Newtonian dynamics, MOND, M-O-N-D, a theory first proposed in the 1980s that suggests that below a certain acceleration, the relationship between gravity and distance becomes linear. So, again, stuff about physics that we just don't really understand yet. Below this point, the equivalence principle no longer holds. MOND is an intriguing theory, but one of its major weaknesses is that the transition point where Newtonian dynamics breaks off and has to be tuned to fit observational data, and a satisfactory justification for this adjustment of the transition point still hasn't been given. So in response, McCulloch proposed the quantized inertia theory, which accounts for an object's inertial mass independent of its gravitational mass. By decoupling an object's inertial mass and gravitational mass, McCulloch claims to be able to explain the observed galactic rotations using only the visible matter. This is done by invoking the Unruh effect, originally theorized by the physicist Bill Unruh in 1976. An important implication of quantized inertia, QI, and one of the main reasons it's so controversial is that it abandons the equivalence principle. The inertial mass of an object is no longer coupled to its gravitational mass, and instead explains the effects of the Unruh radiation on the object. The Unruh effect states that an accelerating object will perceive an increase in temperature, Unruh radiation, that would not be noticed by an object at the same location traveling at a constant speed. In QI theory, an object accelerating to the left produces a horizon to the right. This horizon is a limit beyond which information cannot reach the object due to how fast information can travel, the speed of light. Unless, of course, you have quantum entangled communicators and can,
right.
So, the horizon acts like a wall for the Unruh radiation, insofar as it damps or suppresses the radiation on the right. This suppressing effect creates a radiation imbalance so that there's more radiation on the left, the warm Unruh bath, than on the right, the cold Unruh bath. This excess of radiation works against the initial acceleration of the object because it bangs into the object as it moves to the left. So, and then we have a thing called the Rindler horizon. So, a further difficulty for the theory is that physicists are fairly divided on whether the Unruh effect has ever been observed. McCulloch is fairly certain that it has been seen in past experiments. However, he's in for a challenge since the DARPA contract will require him and his colleagues to apply this effect in an experimental engine. QI explains inertia for the first time, McCulloch said at a TED Talk earlier this year. In a sense, it unifies physics. I'm using horizons that actually come from relativity, but quantum waves, which come from quantum physics. Actually demonstrating this in a lab is going to be very difficult because we're going to need very high accelerations, and it's not quite known how to damp quantum waves yet. If we do it, though, we should be able to launch a capsule without fuel. So, how can and this subheader is QI, the M drive in interstellar starships. So, how can a theory meant to be an alternative to dark matter be harnessed to create a new type of propulsion system powered by an electromagnetic radiation? Read light. The fundamental idea would be create a sort of shield that would dampen the Unruh radiation produced by a highly accelerated object so that it increases the object's acceleration rather than impedes it. Thus, a shield placed above a rocket, say, would actually help increase its acceleration vertically. Or maybe if you had a Haunebu that could create some kind of shield against the rest of Earth's, gravitational field, then it would rise up like a bubble in the sea. But anyhow, I believe QI could be a real game changer for space science, McCulloch said in a statement. After receiving the DARPA contract, I always thought it could be used to convert light into thrust, but also suggests ways to enhance that thrust. It's hugely exciting now that I have the opportunity to test it.
I'm always looking for ways to enhance my thrust.
Oh, baby. So if McCulloch and his team are successful, it would represent an unprecedented breakthrough in propulsion systems. It would be particularly applicable in space where achieving speeds necessary to reach escape velocity usually requires big, disgusting amounts of chemical propellant. The downside of this, of course, is that rockets carry their propellant with them on the journey. If you want to lift more into space, you're going to need more fuel, and in order to carry more fuel, you're going to need more fuel, and so on. So, unlike a traditional rocket engine, a QI-based thruster would simply need enough power to fuel an electric core. This core would be highly accelerated to produce the UNRWA radiation that could be harnessed for propulsion using a conductive shield to dampen the UNRWA waves. UNRWA waves. Yeah, say that 10 times fast. The exact design for a QI-based engine hasn't been worked out yet, but that's part of what McCulloch and his DARPA goons are going to be investigating with their DARPA contract.
DARPA goons.
I wish we had some DARPA goons here.
I think we went on long enough, and
no, we haven't. There's one last thing.
No, just next week, man. It's already.
They found an exo moon. Look it up. They think
post it in the group. So if you want to see the exo moon, go to Facebook and join Reality Brief, X Politics and Conspiracy Group. And
but sure enough, it's the first exo moon detected outside.
Phantom
1625B.
Phantom Spy, wake up! Your Patreon donation is due. And thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Tess, holding it down for us, and peace out.
beneath the